Welcome, folks, to Surface Navy Association's Continuing the Conversation Summer Series. I'm really excited about this. I get to host it along with my co-host, my great co-host, Master Chief of the Coast Guard Number 8, Vince Patton. And we're going to talk today with the Diversity and Inclusion and Action Plan staff from Coast Guard Headquarters, led by Admiral Ray. We have Ms. Michelle Godfrey. We have Commander Carrie, Wolfe, and we have the Deputy Master Chief of the Coast Guard, Bushey. So we're very excited to talk about this topic today. I'll tell you that I am a poor substitute for the person that normally does this, Master Chief Joanne Ortloff. She's been doing the Surface Navy Association's Continuing the Conversation Summer Series, and she has done a great job with it. So this is not my normal venue. So everybody, please have a little bit of patience with me. But between Vince and I, he's always been my mentor on things like this. Plus, he's my YN. We'll get through this thing. So just a second about the Surface Navy Association. This is an association for Coast Guard and Navy. It's been in existence since 1985. Unlike some of the other organizations, SNA really promotes and kind of focuses on mentoring and professional development. This is important to Coasties. In order to, you want to succeed, you really have to talk to folks about how to get there. You want to get to the top, you have to figure out your path. And, but it's an important organization. And one thing that I really want to talk about, Surface Navy Association has an enlisted grant. I just throw this out. E4 to E6s are able to apply. There's a lot of folks out there that want their 100-ton licenses. And if you're in the category, you don't even have to be a cutterman now. They've changed the wording on the requirements. You do have to be an SNA member, which is very low cost, but this will pay most of the cost of your 100-ton license. So you should check into that, www.navysna.org. And please don't let the name throw you off. So again, we have our Vice Commandant, Admiral Ray, a legend in the Coast Guard today, a great leader. We have Miss Michelle Godfrey. She's with CG1, and she's the co-chair of the Diversity Inclusion Action Plan. We have the Deputy Master Chief of the Coast Guard, Bushey, who's also a co-chair. And we have Commander Carrie, Wolfe, who's a team member. And we have team members, as I understand it, across the United States that has put this together. So Vince, I'm going to throw it over to you to ask the first question.
All right. Well, listen, well, good morning, everybody. And it's really exciting to be part of this very important cast that we're doing, and on a very important subject. So to Vice Commandant Admiral Ray, I want to start off first of all welcoming you and to ask the first question, which is, can you tell us why Diversity and Inclusion Action Plan is a strategic priority for the Coast Guard?
Well, good morning, Master Chief. Thanks for the question. And before I get started, I want to thank you and Master Chief Bowen for being a part of this and for your support of SNA in general and all the other great things you do. Both of you have day jobs, but your commitment to our service is just something that inspires me. And for the rest of the folks out there in the land, these are two of my mentors, and I make no bones about that. So I'm thankful for what they've done and continue to do. With regards to why this is a strategic initiative, I think it's pretty well-known fact. I take it as a given that when you approach challenges, when you approach problems with a diverse work group, with a diverse set, you make better decisions. And that extends from operational decisions to, mission support decisions. It's been proven over and over again. I've personally seen it out in the field where people look at things different than I do, and we usually end up with a better result. So that, to me, is a given. The other thing is really kind of selfish on the part of the Coast Guard's perspective. We're in a talent competition in our nation. For the group of young people who qualify for military service is a pretty small shot group. And we have got to make sure we don't leave anybody on the table when we're looking for the best people to serve in our Coast Guard. And so I want to get out and get after everybody. And the way I do that is by demonstrating that our service is serious about including everybody. When you get on those yellow footprints at Cape May, or when you cross the threshold at the academy, or however you enter our service, You need to do that with the understanding that you've got an equal shot to be anything you want to be, regardless of your background or ethnicity or anything. So I got to do that to prove that, to get them to come. And then lastly, I think we are a better service for our nation when we represent what our nation looks like. When we're out there on the waterfront or in the shipyards or all the places that we do our duty, when our service represents our nation, we're going to be better. We're going to be more trusted. We're going to be more effective. We're going to do a better job. Over.
And Admiral, just as a follow-up, I understand that the Coast Guard has been working on this for a couple of years. This team has been in action for a couple of years, coming up with really good strategies to help the Coast Guard meet this challenge. This isn't something that was thrown together just because of the social unrest in our nation today. Is that correct?
That's absolutely correct, Master Chief. Thanks for bringing that up. And in fact, you know, Master Chief and I were out in the Great Lakes this time last week. And one of our first class petty officers, pretty savvy coastie, asked that very question. And it is, as Miss Godfrey will tell you and the Master Chief will tell you and Commander Wolfe, we've been at this since last year because we knew that this talent management, this ability to get the right folks in our service is something we need to lay the groundwork for to be successful moving forward. I think obviously what's going on in the country right now has added a greater focus on it. It's made a lot of people understand how important this is, but without sounding like we're bragging, we've been marching after this for quite a while now. Over.
Awesome. So the next question is for Master Chief Bushey. And for those that aren't familiar with the Deputy Master Chief of the Coast Guard, I've known Rob Bushey a long time. If you look under Wikipedia for the definition or the words kick butt Coast Guard bosun mate, you're going to find a picture of Master Chief Rob Bushey. He knows everyone. He knows he's been there and done that. So Master Chief Bushey, tell us how this impacts the workforce.
Well, hey, great. Thanks, Skip and Vince, to both of you for coming together to put this on. I don't know that I'd ask you to repeat that introduction ever again, but thanks. So how does it impact the workforce? I will tell you that our workforce is comprised of the smartest and most talented individual that our nation has to offer. However, as the Vice Commandant said, we need to make sure that we're keeping up with that. And we also need to recognize that everybody that comes into our Coast Guard is starting at a different point. Some are more educated, some are more experienced, some have certain talents than others. But it's that conglomeration of coming together that really helps us get the mission done. As we all know, we run a very mission-heavy organization on a shoestring budget. And so the more talent that we can bring in, the more talent that we can retain, the stronger our teams are, and the more productive our workforce can be. And I don't mean more productive just for the sake of getting more work out of people. Is as we're more productive, as we take advantage of those talents and skill sets, our workforce can actually see the difference in the level of effort on each individual. That is now spread across the workforce, spread across the enterprise, so that one person's not standing 12 hours a watch and one person's standing 4 hours a watch. We really need to make sure that everybody is pulling their load, but not for the sake of the work piece, but for the sake of valuing their talent. The other thing that I would see we need to be mindful of is that if this is not an organizational strategic imperative, we're not going to make traction. Each individual needs to understand the organization's expectations, and then it's our job as leaders in the organization to instill this at every step along the way. So how's it going to impact the workforce? We're currently working with ForceComp to make sure that this curriculum, that these expectations are now instilled in every leadership training along the way. They're reinforced at every command cadre course, whether that's a one-time course or it's a reoccurring course like Boat Force Command Cadre or PCO, PXO, or the annual Aviation COs Conference, or you name it. All of those opportunities where leaders come together, we need to instill this in our workforce. And so there should be a profound impact on two things. Number one, it's the level of understanding of what it is that we're asking them to do. What is that acumen? What is that knowledge piece that it's our responsibility to instill? And then number two, it's setting the standard, setting that goal, setting the example, so that everybody who comes into the organization feels valued and they know that they have the same opportunity, regardless of where they come from, to meet their personal and professional goals. It is a long-term, enduring strategy that will certainly continue to propel the Coast Guard into the next century.
Okay, great. Any follow-on, Skip?
No, sir.
Okay. All right. Well, good. Well, I'm going to move on over to Ms. Godfrey. Good morning to you, and thank you so much for being here. And so I've got a complex question for you, which will require a long answer. So take your time to answer. So how will this plan be implemented?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me here today. I'm really excited to be here, and I'm really excited to talk about the implementation of this plan. So, and I think it's unique because to me, this is a Coast Guard plan. We invested a lot of time getting various inputs from a variety of people, ranging from our leadership, excellence, and diversity council to our LDACs, our leadership and diversity advisory councils, our affinity groups, our flags and SES, legal, civil rights, and our implementation team. I mean, just a variety of people to really develop this plan. So it is a Coast Guard plan. It's not an Office of Diversity Inclusion plan. It is a Coast Guard plan, and that's how we're approaching its implementation as well. This is not a plan that is just simply going to be implemented by the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, trying to lead various efforts. We've pulled together a team that is composed of our total workforce. So we have active duty officer and enlisted, auxiliarists, civilians, reservists, all on this team. The team members come from across the Coast Guard, so from our districts, our areas, various commands, our headquarters. And Master Chief Bushey and myself are co-chairs of that team. We've set up various teams within the team, and our job is to coordinate all of the actions that we've outlined in that plan to make sure that they are accomplished. And the first thing that we started with, and it was really inspiring, was a rollout of the plan to all of our senior executives, our flags, our gold badges, to make sure that they understand the plan, to make sure that they can carry the message. We gave them tools to start conversations, although I will tell you that I'm finding even without us, the conversations are starting within the Coast Guard. I mean, it's just been really terrific to see. And so there is a thirst for this form, or for this initiative, and people are ready. And it's just been great. So it's not just a one office completing the plan, it is a Coast Guard effort. And I just think that that's such a unique approach. And you're right, that was a really long answer, so.
I wanted to warn you so you didn't have to rush through and say, oh my God, it's going to be long. Because it's a very complex question. A follow-on to that is that as this plan is being implemented and it's going out throughout the entire Coast Guard, now will this require units to have a separate plan, or this is a one-size-fit-all for everybody?
So this is definitely, a higher level plan, but there are many initiatives in it, obviously, that will impact the entire workforce. And so some of it will be, high level, but what we'll be seeking is, as we give out tools to, various unit commanders, to leaders, they're going to be able to develop their own strategies. We've already seen it. We've seen action from some of our districts saying, here's my expectations related to this. And so I just think it's really unique what's happening. There's just there seems to be a total Coast Guard effort towards implementing this plan, which I just think is different. So,
okay, thank you.
Yeah. It's great. It's great to see.
Say, Master Chief, I'll add on to that. I think the current climate, social climate that we have has really sparked the interest. And luckily we were able to kind of pivot off of what's happening in the country right now with the things that we had in the works to provide for the workforce. And we've been able to take advantage of, I hate to say advantage, but take advantage of the situation and be prepared and roll out our plan.
Yeah, and tell you, my hat's off to every one of you, particularly as I look back in my, I've been retired now for 18 years. And, I think back to 18 years ago, I remember Admiral Loy and I having just a general discussion about having something of this nature, but, it just wasn't ready for prime time for a lot of reasons of things. And also looking at the situation of today, which is driving a lot, if nothing more, driving more of the interest to get people who didn't pay attention are now paying attention to that. So my hat's off to every one of you. So, Skip.
So for Commander Wolfe, actually, Ms. Godfrey went quite a bit into how the plan was developed. But do you have anything further on how the team developed the plan? And then I have a follow-up question.
So sure, Master Chief. So like Ms. Godfrey said, it was compiled from over 200 folks within the Coast Guard, lots of our leaders, lots of our LDACs, and our lead counsel. But when the Chief of Office of Diversity and Inclusion, Mr. Aviles Perez, came in, he did an internal assessment of the Coast Guard and where he thought we were. And so he took that assessment that he did for himself and kind of came up with a plan of what he thought should be addressed in order to infuse and embed diversity and inclusion throughout the Coast Guard. That came up with the 3 lines of effort, developing D&I acumen, improving awareness and leadership awareness and accountability, and then also building and retaining an inclusive workforce. And so from that, he came up with, not he by himself, but with some outside help, he got some ideas of having the training, embedding the training throughout the workforce, and just making sure that it'll stick, because, we've done these efforts previously, but they haven't really stuck. So we're trying to make it stick by putting it throughout the entire workforce and just not at certain levels.
No, I think that's great. And what, actually for my last question, I'll have a little bit more on what the point you just raised. But I this is just from personal experience. Admiral Allen, during his time and with me, he put a lot of emphasis on this, and we traveled to a lot of different forums, and we talked to a lot of diverse folks throughout the Coast Guard. And I put a lot of thought into this through the years. I'll tell you, Vince Patton and I talk 2 or 3 times a week on a normal week. So, and I pound his ear, I bounce things off him. A lot of times his perspective is much different than mine. But that has always made me better. He was my mentor. He kind of pointed me in the right direction. He was the guy that was running around the Chiefs Academy with a 3-star ring. And I'd never really put any thought into being the Master Chief of the Coast Guard before. So I think mentoring is extremely important to this conversation, and to actually having success and sustained mentoring, and actually focused and strategic mentoring. Because I felt like during my time, as we talked to a lot of folks in the Coast Guard, it's not like it's not a secret, but people don't think about how to get from A to Z, how to become that senior person that they might want to if they stick around the Coast Guard. How much is mentoring? So my question to you, Commander Wolfe, is mentoring a big part of this action plan?
It's funny you asked that, Master Chief. It's actually one of our efforts that we are leading right now, is to standardize and to actually programmatically create a mentoring program, because right now it's on a volunteer basis throughout the Coast Guard. We put some lots of resources towards it, including some great backing from the Vice Commandant, and from, we have leadership. We're like Ms. Godfrey said, it's been a whole total team. So the Office of Leadership is right beside the Office of Diversity and Inclusion, and we've been working together to see where we could improve projects just like mentoring. And so recently they were funded to have a mentoring program manager, and we'll be leading that effort to make it across the Coast Guard and make it available for everyone, so that the young person at boot camp or that young person at the academy, you start at the accession point and someone can walk through with them throughout their entire work, their life cycle within the Coast Guard. And that's, you know, we can help do that. We can retain more people, not just, you know, underrepresented minorities, but throughout the entire workforce. We, you know, just build those folks in their leadership capabilities and build their resumes as they go along and help them see what they're here for. So.
Aye, aye.
Well, thank you. Okay, I'm going to go over to Admiral Ray as well as to Master Chief Bushey to jointly ask this next question. It's something I've always thought about when we come up with some great plans over the years, and I'm not knocking anyone that we had a good plan and didn't work and so forth, but it's all about the fact of its longevity and how things are going to work and so forth. So I guess my question would be is that what are the follow-on opportunities of this plan that it anticipates become a continuing living document for the next Commandant and the next Commandant and the next Commandant?
Thanks, Master Chief. I'll take my 2 cents on that and then turn it over to Master Chief Bushey. I think what we aspire to make this be lasting from one administration to the next, if you will. One is I think we're going to put in that second line of effort. We talk about holding leaders accountable. That's not just me checking up on an individual. We're going to put some process in place, and we're working on this. This is hard. That directly reflects that leader's kind of adoption from the pretty small unit level all the way up to the major commands. Their adoption, their advocacy for things related to diversity and inclusion. So we get that, and you know how that works. If you're checking me on this, I'm gonna pay attention to it. So I mean, that's the way we work in the Coast Guard. So I think if we get that right, and we're putting a lot of effort into that, I think that will move forward. I think some of the work that we've done, I look back on how we worked with indoctrinating our women coming into the Coast Guard. We're not where we need to be yet, but our critical mass of women is so much greater than it was when you were Master Chief Petty Officer of the Coast Guard. Some of the work you did, and we just kept at it, and at some point you reach a critical mass where you're not the only woman at a unit. And when you're one of several, then you can really start to have change. So we're putting emphasis on that third line of effort too, which is, kind of recruiting people. I mean, targeting, not sneaking around about it. Really targeting. We need to really get after this as our recruiting goals. And so I'm hopeful those two things will move it and make this kind of sustainment. Master Chief.
Thanks, Admiral. Hey, Vince, a couple different thoughts on this. Number one is that without leadership, D&I can't be sustained. And so from the very first second that our Commandant stepped foot in this office, everywhere he talks, he makes it a point to say our Coast Guard needs to be reflective of the society, of the people that we serve. That's number one. And you can go back and look at his remarks from 2 years ago, probably at his change of watch when he came into the job. I'd put my paycheck on it that he said that. He firmly believes that. Leadership believes that our service is better when we bring all the efforts of everybody in society. So that's number one. Number two is there is no one size fits all. Everybody who thinks that we can lead diversity and we can lead change and inclusion and equity at Coast Guard Station, you name it, from Coast Guard headquarters, we all know that can't happen. And so we need to make sure that the men and women that we put in these leadership positions and these supervisory positions understand the value, they have buy-in, and they have the tools necessary to develop those future leaders. And so we're doing that. We are putting our money where our mouth is. The Office of Diversity and Inclusion is fully staffed. We have a civilian who runs that office, is the chief of that office intentionally, because the military members rotate out all the time. And so you want something to lose traction is put somebody in the job that's going to leave 2 years from now. We didn't do that. We hired a civilian to run that office. And that civilian reports directly to Miss Godfrey, right in the 1-2 shop, right to the Office of Personnel Management. It is a big deal to say the Coast Guard is putting their money where their mouth is. Now, it's not just a strategy on a piece of paper. It's a plan with an execution phase that runs all the way to that frontline supervisor on the deck plate. And then the last thing I'll tell you is that every strategy needs a refresher from time to time. And so this strategy as signed out, it was 2019 to 2023, which gives the new commandant, the new leadership team, opportunity to come in and look what might need to be changed, what resources might need to be affected, and then roll out a new strategy after they've been in the job. And so this is, I think, a great opportunity to really take a hard look at what are we teaching, who are we putting in leadership positions, what are our expectations, and then how are we going to hold those folks accountable so the workforce sees that we're taking action. It's not talk, it's action.
Absolutely. And, and I love the idea. You've done more than plant the seed. You have really built a wonderful foundation of where things are. And again, a comment that Admiral Ray had said earlier, because I think back to, I enlisted in the Coast Guard in 1972. There were no women, with the exception of women that we had in the reserve component, and that was it. And it wasn't until 1974 when it all started building. And so my point of bringing that up is that I've watched over the course of my 30-year career to see how things have changed. And I will tell you something that I shared this with Admiral Ray some time ago about as we look and get very serious about our focus of diversity, that we have to look at it in more of a very aggressive plan. And I'm excited to see how this plan has come together, and equally excited to hear how you're looking at it for the future, because that's the most important thing. The best part of this is going to work is how is this going to look 5, 10, 15 years from now?
So one thing Admiral Allen always said, which is absolutely true, is there is no Coast Guard Academy class, no OCS class, no Coast Guard recruit company. When those folks graduate from each of those groups, they are as diverse as they are ever going to be when it comes to the military members. So is there any way, because people attrit, and as time goes on, and if you just have a small group of minority members or diverse members, you're going to lose them just because, that's normal. It's not because Coast Guard's good or bad. It's to get to, Admiral Ray said, critical mass, to get to that critical mass where there's a bunch of people at the top that look like Vince Patton or someone else as they're coming up, a female, more Vivian Craze, more Admiral Bryce Harris at the very top. How are we going to get to that critical mass? Because it takes a long time to build an admiral and hold them. That's to the panel. Anybody that wants to chime in, please.
I'll jump in on that, Master Chief. I think there's multiple things you have to do at the same time. As we talked, you got to do, the recruiting part. That's a steady thing. That's a marathon, not a sprint. You got to stay after that. Keep working that issue, all the time. And then, as Commander Wolfe said earlier, this mentoring thing, I think, is really, there's a lot to that. And we're trying to put more structure on it, because that critical second assignment that you get, we're putting most of our young officers I'll talk to, and the Master Chief could talk to what we're doing with the enlisted workforce, because that's, important without saying. I mean, that's super important. That we want to see. Command Master Chief said, that, like you said, in a more diverse perspective. But what we're trying to do is take that young officers at that JG level, getting ready to take their second tour, and make sure that she understands if she wants to get there, this is what you got to do to get there. And and sometimes that'll go against her natural instincts. Her natural instincts may, I want to go over here because I got a lot of buddies over there. Well, if you want to get there, being someplace in the Coast Guard in a leadership position, I need to give you some coaching along the way. And you can make your own choices, but we've got to do that very purposely. And then secondly, I think, and this is one of the reasons we're doing this study, Master Chief, we're doing a study right now on the retention of underrepresented minorities. We're doing that right now. Rand's doing it for us. And the intent is to action that. So we've got disproportionate attrition from the service from minorities than from majorities, And so we did a similar study for women, and we found some stuff that wasn't so obvious. and we took action on it with regards to policies that affected our women in a different way than it did our men. And I think, I mean, I won't brag on it, but if you talk to Coast Guard women, some of the policy changes made a big difference. We hope to have those same aha moments with our underrepresented minorities. So we're going to go about analyzing this, seeing what's there. So it's recruitment, it's coaching to help them get where they need to get, and then it's retention of people, understanding where we've got these unconscious bias policies that disproportionately affect our underrepresented folks. You got to put all that together, Master Chief. It's a long-winded answer, but I don't think there's any quick answer.
No, I agree. And it has to be continually reassessed. You know, I remember when the 87s first came in, and we made a big deal for years. It could have any combination of male or female. And then suddenly I'm the Master Chief of the Coast Guard, and I'm getting this complaint from a female Master Chief who wanted to go on an 87, and the EPM wouldn't put her on there because it wasn't a female boat. And I mean, I had to scratch my head. When did we create that policy? And I'll tell you, it just crept in. It was easier for EPM to manage. But that was a policy that definitely was affecting women in the Coast Guard and their ability to climb the same ranks that, say, a male member did. So that bugged the heck out of me. Vince, you have something?
Yes, I've got a question from out there, which is great, from Gabriel Acosta. Will there be a comprehensive toolkit for senior enlisted leaders to reference other than building relationships with D&I change agents to directly and positively affect the retention rate of our URM members? That's open to anyone.
So I'll take this one, and please, if the other panel members have something to say, please do so. And I see that Deputy McPog does. So we are developing a variety of tools that will be used by our leaders. So, you know, some training that's going to be developed, some conversation starters. We already have a rollout kit that is provided to leaders. It gives them some suggestions on activities that they can do, conversation starters, how to even prepare for a conversation. We also are working on a variety of other tools. You mentioned our D&I change agents. That is certainly one area that we're focused on. These change agents are available to leaders to help facilitate conversations, to coach them as they are working through others, you know, maybe some diversity inclusion situations. And, you know, it's not going to be a one and done. We're working on our website. We're going to have, you know, a variety of tools on our website available. So I think what's different here is it's not just one thing. It's a sustained, continual communication. As Commander Wolfe mentioned, there's a lot of synergies. So we are directly connected with our public affairs staff in terms of how we communicate out, what's the best way to communicate, what's that communication methodology. So a lot of connections and a lot of effort to ensure that we're getting the right tools out. And that's why we created the D&I implementation team as well. And we got representatives throughout the field so that we could hear, what do we need? What's going to help resonate, you know, down at the deck plate level? We want to make sure that we're communicating at all levels in the Coast Guard. Master Chief, I didn't know if you had anything else that you wanted to add, Master Chief Bushey.
Hey, thank you, ma'am. And a great question from Senior Chief Costa, great guy. So a couple things. Number one is our change agents are there as kind of a primer, a jump start, if you will, to make sure that we've got a certain level of ability, and I'm trying to use words that everybody would be able to jump into. These change agents, some of them have some D&I background, some of them don't. Some of them are coasties who were driving ships last week, or maybe a new GS employee who comes in and really wants to be part of the change. And so the point being is these change agents are going to be a jump start, if you will, to provide some resources to the field. They are certainly not the end all be all. And D&I change is not about the change agents affecting change, but allowing the workforce to implement change or to make change or to facilitate change, to facilitate conversations, to share perspectives, and to make sure that we as a Coast Guard are listening to our workforce and are doing something about perhaps some of the things that need to be changed in order for us to take advantage of the talent that we have in our workforce. And so that's number one. Number two, Gabe, I think the question was, what are we going to do for our senior enlisted leaders? Number one is we got to buy in. And so if the senior leadership, whether you're enlisted or whether you're a civilian employee or an auxiliarist, if leadership is not bought into D&I change and they're not encouraging the conversation every day, they're not actively making D&I a part of their decision process or their day-to-day activities, then we're never going to get there. And so what we can do as senior enlisted leaders is, number one, understand the Commandant's expectations here. Number two, get smart on what it is. Try to understand what your biases are, where you are, what's your starting point, where you are in this whole process, so that you are not just talking the talk. You're walking the walk every day, because you're having these conversations with those men and women who report to you or work around you, and they're seeing that change, not hearing you say it, but actually seeing you live the change that we're expecting. And you know, there's not a goal line here. And that's the other thing that we all need to realize. D&I is not a race that we're going to win one day. D&I needs to be part of our lexicon, part of our conversation, part of our expectations, our core values, if you will, to say we can only be the best Coast Guard possible if we are committed to making sure that everybody's included in the conversation, and that we understand that equity is not fair. Equity does not mean that you know, one policy, we all have one policy. We're all starting at a different point. So how do we recognize that, and how do we help those folks that are perhaps not at the same point get to that same point, so they can realize what their success is going to be? And that's the other thing, is my success is not Commander Wolfe's success, is not Ms. Godfrey's success. Everybody's success is different. You got to be willing to have that conversation, and you got to be willing to let people be part of that.
Master Chief, just to add on to what you said, because that was great and that was perfect. I just want to remind folks, this is a continual journey, right? D&I has to be, there's no one expert on D&I. It takes a lifetime of reading, of just trying to improve yourself, remembering what the inclusive behaviors are that help to make people feel comfortable around you. And there's always a continual feedback loop, right? So one policy, and that's not like the silver bullet. The change agents are not silver bullets. They're not going to make the change throughout the Coast Guard that we're looking for. It's going to take each and every one of the Coast Guard members working towards, you know, being more inclusive. And we've got those inclusive behaviors, fair, equitable, communicating, open, and those empowering, those words that we should believe in and should be working towards to building into our, you know, DNA, right? And so once we get to that point, we'll be able to move forward and continually move forward. And as like the next administration comes, you can keep looking and seeing how we're improving, where we need to go back and maybe course correct, you know, change our course line to go away from shoal water, maybe go ahead and speed up the engines there. So just, you know, I think we just have to remember that there's no silver bullet. We have tools that are available right now on the portal and also on the Coast Guard diversity page. But we are continuing to build those tools, and we need your feedback. If there's something that we're not reaching or something that we haven't answered for you, we encourage you to reach out to us. There's an email address on the diversity inclusion website. Please send us an email and we can work with you. We also encourage you to join the implementation team. If you have ideas, if you want to be a part of it, we're open. It's a whole Coast Guard effort. This is not from headquarters to push this through. So please, Master Chief or Chief Acosta, if you want to join the implementation team, we'd be happy to hear your feedback from the field and put it into play. We need you.
Hey, Commander, towards the end of this, have that website ready, because I'll ask you for it, and then you can send it out to everybody here. So I'm excited about this. We have now 2 questions from the field, which is kind of awesome. Master Chief Acosta, and one from Brad Haynes here, which I'm about to ask. But really, for me, Surface Navy Association put this on. It takes resources to do it. If only 10 people and a dog are watching, they ain't gonna let me and Vince do this again. So, I mean, we have a lot of fun with this, and it's meaningful, and hopefully will make positive change, because in my opinion, watching all the events around the world, I think we're just talking past each other all the time, and nobody's stopping to listen, and no one's stopping. It's like your point of view is bad or your point of view is skewed, and nobody's just listening and then having reasoned responses. And that's the way we're going to get there, folks, at least in my opinion. So we have a question from Brad Haynes for the panel. Admiral, Commander, Master Chiefs, and ma'am, is there any way to better fund recruiting to help get the Coast Guard's name to more diverse areas of the U.S. and territory to better align with other branches' recruiting ability? And that's coming from MEC Brad Haynes.
Hey, Chief, great question. I alluded to it earlier that we are. I don't know if the Vice will appreciate me saying this. We're a $16 billion organization that we run on about $13 billion a year. So we're on a shoestring budget, and we try to look at where our dollar can have the best return on investment, the best bang for your buck, if you will. And recruiting is one of those areas that we find ourselves challenged in quite regularly. Several years ago, we were doing very well. We made some changes to reduce the number of recruiting stations, recruiting offices, and now we find ourselves in a stern chase to recruit enough, and not only just enough to meet a number, but enough of the right people to be reflective of society. And so we're working on that. The recruiting command works hard every day to try to get out into those areas that you just alluded to really make sure people know about the Coast Guard, to understand the opportunities the Coast Guard presents, and encourage them to join our team. We are looking at some technology to help our recruiters to close the deal, as the Vice Commandant mentioned the other day. We do get out and have these face-to-face and meet them in a coffee shop, and we get them interested, but we find ourselves behind the technology bubble in that we can't get them to sign on the dotted line until we go back to the office and process the paperwork. And so we are trying to help our recruiters with some tools and resources to maybe get that candidate pool a little bit broader, a little bit quicker, and to get people on the hook, if you will. And I don't mean to be on the hook to be snide about it, but really, I mean, if we don't close the deal, if we don't get them in uniform, other opportunities come along. That's just the way life is. And so people are going to move on to something that they can see a quicker return on. And if the delay is what's making us lose out, then shame on us. We should do something about it. So we're working on that. Last year, we did try to push really hard. We asked our recruiters to focus on underrepresented minorities and women. And we did really well in that world, but that was at the cost of the numbers. And so, again, we find ourselves in a stern chase to get our numbers back up. And COVID's not helping. That we can't fill the buses at Cape May right now. So that's another challenge that we have. So we're on it. A great question. I love where you're thinking, Chief. And I hope once this COVID dynamic lays down, we can get back at it and get us back up to fully staffed.
Okay, I want to chime in just a little bit. Sorry, I got to throw a sea story in here, but as it ties in with this question.
Is this about that paper cut in the Atlantic again?
No, it's about the rat that bit me. That's another story. I want to chime in on this, particularly as it relates to recruiting. I mentioned I joined in 1972, and it was in 1976 when I re-enlisted. Got a set of orders to what I consider was my re-enlistment assignment, only to be there for just a few months and to come into work, and my chief telling me that I got orders to recruiting duty. I never asked for recruiting duty, and I was upset about it because my concern of going on recruiting duty was I was going to be out of my rating, which at the time I was a radioman, and felt that it was going to be tough for me to try to make first class. Well, I went kicking and screaming from Detroit to Chicago. There were pothole marks all the way from on I-94 all the way to Chicago. And I was pretty upset about going on recruiting duty. Now, what happened? What happened was, and I mentioned something earlier about the aggressiveness of trying to build within our mass that we need, particularly in the area of diversity, was the Coast Guard decided in that 1976 era, they were going to get serious about minority recruiting, as that term was said then. And they looked around and found out that out of the 200 or nearly 300 recruiters, whatever number they had out there, that they could count the number of African-American recruiters on just barely two hands. So select and direct happened. It went out and people like me got sent to recruiting. I was unhappy about it when I got there, but it turned out to be the best assignment I had in the Coast Guard, because I began to learn, and through a mentor, of course, who I just moaned and griped and complained about the fact that the Coast Guard did me wrong, sending me to a job I didn't want to go to, and to find out that I had to be part of something bigger than me, and to look at the growth of our service. So I throw the story out to say that, you know, it sometimes may take some type of an aggressive action of some sort, that if we're not doing something right away, and we're looking at that time is waning us a little bit, that we have to look to sometimes some type of outrageous means, such as sending people on recruiting duty, as the case may be. But I also look at, we've got a lot of things in place today. Partnership and education are one of those other types of programs that I think can at least tie in this, not as much as partnership and education to get people to join the service, but to raise the visibility of the service as a whole. But I just want to bring that up. Okay. All right. Well, we have another question just popped up as I was going to.
I was just going to add, I'm sorry, to what you were saying. So we have the affinity groups within the Coast Guard that there's national affiliates, and then there's internal Coast Guard groups that a lot of times they're doing an outreach, and they attend conferences and they raise the visibility of the Coast Guard. Again, COVID-19 has kind of put a kibosh on that, but we partner with civilian human resources for their recruiting, and also with Coast Guard Recruiting Command to try and get the word out to different groups of people, and also with the affinity groups to try and, from within, to get those folks interested in being a recruiter, being at, company commander at, at Cape May. But we're trying to use our internal channels to become more visible with the outside, and partnering with those affinity groups has been extremely fruitful and helpful in us getting that word out, just so you know.
Thank you. All right, we have a question from Norma, I'm sorry if I'm going to mispronounce it, Smahal, I believe it is. The question is, the Coast Guard has allowed for physical fitness time allowable during our work days. Has a similar suggestion for dedicated D&I time during our workday. Open to anybody.
So I don't think that there's any policy in place right now that prevents that. Again, D&I needs to be part of the Coast Guard lexicon. It needs to be part of the leadership, not only leadership development, but it needs to be part of the mission excellence piece of the Coast Guard. And so I know Ms. Smehal very well. I know the Vice knows her very well. And I think that that was a loaded question, because I think she knows the answer to that, is that not only is it authorized, it's encouraged. It should be part of every OIC's or CO's dialogue, whether they're having a wardroom function or the CO's engaging with the chief's mess to have a dialogue about, you name it, an upcoming exercise or an upcoming evolution, an upcoming opportunity that should be part of that. As far as the crew goes, this is definitely a training thing. This is definitely we need to make sure that we are providing that insight, that inflection opportunity, and the leadership to encourage the conversation. And that is all part of being a good leader. It's all part of developing your crew, looking back on that ladder and dragging that next person up is part of this conversation. So, ma'am, spot on. Not only is it authorized, but it's encouraged, and it's in keeping with the Commandant's expectations.
Okay.
So when, I talked about talking past each other, and setting something like what the last question out formally. I mean, there may be segments of the Coast Guard that I don't want to say anything nefarious, but maybe the understanding and full understanding of why this stuff is really important may not be there. And it's important, again, you don't want to set up like a a minder, like used to be on, you know, if you look at what's the Tom Clancy where they stole the Russian sub, and you got a Communist Party minder on to watch the crew and watch the captain. I don't think this thing's ever going to work if that kind of thing is in place. What we need is open and comfortable dialogue, command climate, always reassessing. That's what'll get us there. But we really important not to talk past each other. How is the Coast Guard crew doing? So that's the question, I guess. How's the Coast Guard crew doing? Are we talking past each other, or are we, or is the crew understanding why this is important?
Master Chief, I think, you know, I can't speak for every member of the Coast Guard, obviously, but what I've seen, what I've observed, is a willingness and really a strong desire both to talk about their life experience if you're an underrepresented in the most recent days, if you're an African American, their experiences they have, what I've seen is they're much more likely to talk about that. And we've created sessions. We've had for 2 months on Wednesdays, we've had discussions about this, formal things where we have time set aside that's webcast the whole Coast Guard called Wellness Wednesday, where we talk about not just health stuff, but we talk about, you know, spiritual and personal stuff. And then here at headquarters, we've had a thing, we were doing it every Thursday. We had listening sessions where we would go and sit in a room at a social distance and people get up and talk about what their experience was. And that's going on all over the Coast Guard. What we were up in D9, as I said the other day, and they had done a series of podcasts where coasties talk about, you know, the title is Stronger Together, and we really believe that we're stronger together. You can take that into a lot of ways. Coasties talk about their experiences, and it's what I've seen, Master Chief, that's happening right now is people that didn't give it much thought before know how important it is to know what they don't know, or they're more inclined to know that they need to really be paying attention to this. And then people who have been kind of suppressing their experience, they feel much more empowered to speak about it. And that's kind of one of the lines of effort here. Commander Wolfe talked about it, and Master Chief talked about it, as did Miss Godfrey. These change agents that we have that we're training, they're not going to flip the whole Coast Guard. But what they're going to do is give us the opportunity to have these conversations in a constructive way. There's some things you can say with best intentions that you can cross a lot of lines, and we've all done that occasionally, but we're going to try and have these conversations we move it forward. But bottom line, these conversations are happening a lot right now all over the service. I've seen evidence of it, personally been involved in it, and it's the right thing. And it's just, I am thankful that as a result of Ms. Godfrey, Commander Wolfe, and Master Chief, and many others' work, we're kind of positioned to have these conversations as a service. Over.
Okay, well, we're coming down to the wire. Goodness, time is moving fast. We have a question from Lieutenant J.G. Kira Adams. Thank you for asking this question. Good morning, Admiral, and to all. Thanks for hosting this tabletop discussion. I watched the Coast Guard panel discussion at the NNOA on Tuesday. One significant topic that kept arising is supporting URM members in rural locations that don't reflect a diverse image and can often be hostile. Is there any consideration to establishing D&I action teams in those locations to work with the unit, members, and community leaders?
It's the Master, and I'll let the Master Chief talk to this. That's a great question. It's one we've been talking about. I've been talking about because of some of the units I'm visited. They're in places that are just not that diverse around the service. And you look at, there's like three things you're balancing here. One, you don't want to not provide members the opportunity to go to a place if they want to go there. And so we want to do that. On the other hand, I don't want to take a brand new member and stick them in a place where they're the only one that there's no one they can personally relate to on a certain basis for 100 miles. I don't want to do that. And then the third thing is there's ways we can influence communities, but those are somewhat limited. We got to work at it, and that's a commander's business. That's Command Master Chief business, and we do work at that. But you got to kind of balance all these things. So these are what I think we need to do is really be thoughtful about this. If I'm going to send a young person to city X, and these are precious few young people, I'll just be straight up with you. I'm talking about, in this particular instance, it's in my mind, I'm talking about African-American kids that I work hard to get in the Coast Guard. If I'm going to send him or her to station X, I need to be thinking about that. And is that a great place for them to start, or are they going to do their 4 years and leave? I want to keep them around for more than that. So I don't think we've been thoughtful enough about that, Master Chief, because I think we've tried to be overly fair. I want to make sure, we're going to do this, with our blinders on. I'm just going to send them to go everywhere. Well, baloney. There's places where kids do better than other places, and I've got to be thoughtful about that. That's the point that I tried to make the other day, and I'll turn over the Master Chief.
Great. Thanks, Alan. So, of course, I completely agree with what he just said. The two pieces that come to mind from my days as an officer in charge, and Skip, I know you can relate to this, is that there are certain communities where the officer in charge or the CO has an inherent extra required duty, and that's to be that interface with the Coast Guard and the local population to make sure that the city council or the mayor or the sheriff or you name it, whoever those people are, understand the Coast Guard's value proposition and understands how the Coast Guard thinks in regards to whether it's diversity, whether it's you name it. I could get a whole bunch of different things. Number one is, what are we doing to have that conversation? And then what are we doing about maybe those poor interactions that our members might have? Because there are going to be places where it's not the one person. There might be 5 or 6 or 10 or 15, but they still don't have this societal culture which accepts them. And so those members now have a hard time integrating into that local community. And that's our job, to make sure that we're having that conversation. We don't want to necessarily remove all those people from those conversations, because we have a part in developing that society to say, hey, we are a part of this society. We're providing a service, and we would rather society accept our Coast Guard members into their midst, and not the other way around. The other piece is, and the Vice hit it very well, was everybody should have the same opportunity to serve. I know Admiral Kelly at the Coast Guard Academy, we had a lot of conversations about this. How do I get more diversity at our motor lifeboat stations, in our bosun mate rating, if I'm restricting certain people to go to certain places because those small towns and communities don't have that population? And so there's a balancing act that we've got to take, and sometimes that means that we find a location that meets both needs. It meets the needs of the service and the member, while not subjecting that member to some outside influence that is unacceptable, or behavior that we can't condone. So a lot of conversations. It comes down to leadership again at that pointy end, whether you're the chief at the ANT team, or whether you're the sector commander who can engage with the governor, or the district commander who can engage with the governor. So a lot of opportunity there to go along with the challenges.
So real quick, Commander Wolfe, what was that website again?
Master Chief, the website is https://www.dcms.uscg.mil/D as in dog, I as in India, A as in Alpha, P as in Papa /.
That was a mouthful. And you know what I would ask?
I will send it to you.
Actually put it up as a comment to the Facebook Live comments, so everybody has it. Really, thank you. The website I'll give you right now is www.navysna.org, and I want to thank the Surface Navy Association for putting this on, letting me and Vince go crazy again. Thank you to the panelists. We had the Vice Commandant, we had the Deputy Master Chief of the Coast Guard, we had CG-12, Ms. Godfrey, and we had the amazing Commander Carrie Wolfe. And this is a really important discussion. Vince and I have actually been talking about this subject like forever. He gets really tired of explaining, a perspective that maybe, I'm a white male, maybe I haven't thought about. Yet he has been always patient with me, and I appreciate it. Everybody that's out there really just needs to be introspective and think about it. It's just a matter of fairness. It's a matter of equity. It's a matter of making the whole environment be inclusive. And we definitely want this thing to last. I mean, Admiral Allen, we had a program almost similar to this. We had metrics, we had measurements, we had action plans. But the Coast Guard's priorities changed. And quite frankly, in the 10 years I've been retired, the leadership probably, as far as diversity, has gone a little backward. It just takes so long to make that flag officer. So, you know, again, from Vince and I's perspective, that was really the crux of several questions. We would ask that you guys, you know, just make sure it's enduring. And Vince and I are going to be watching. Vince, did you have a last call?
Well, you never give me the last, you know that, Skip. But I'll just end with thanking every one of you for not just being here and being involved, but I truly am very excited about seeing where the Coast Guard is heading. And like I said, I dug through this D&I action plan. I mean, like it was the best novel I've ever read. And I mean that in all sincerity of seeing how far the Coast Guard has come from 1972. And let me tell you, if I were able to turn the tide back to show you what it looked like then and how we got to where we are, we're doing quite well. We still have a ways to go. I'm just excited that we are moving, and we're moving in the right direction. And I owe it all to the leadership, to everyone that's involved here, to be very proactive and involved. Ms. Godfrey, Commander Wolfe, Master Chief Bushey, and of course, my great friend, Admiral Ray. Thank you so much for being involved.
Yeah, even though he flipped that, got NSC number 10 named the Stone, I still not forgive you, Admiral Ray. So listen, thanks a lot, y'all, and we will sign off.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all.